Hey, what is up you guys? I'm Sherban. Welcome to the Financial Dilemma. The economic situation of the world is getting worse by the day. As I'm about to tell you in this video, you will realize that things are most likely not gonna get better. On the contrary, the entire economy of the world is about to collapse. It all started with one of the biggest real estate companies in the world, Evergrande, missing a payment and failing to pay its suppliers. This was the first link in the disaster chain. Why does this matter, you might ask? China is one of the largest economies in the world. Anything, good or bad, happening to China will directly affect you and me. As China is fighting to overtake the US dollar as the global reserve currency, and given the fact that China produces a quarter of the items that the US uses on a daily basis, you can only imagine how big of a blow it would be for China to have the slightest economical imbalance. It would push the whole world into an economical collapse. In this video, I'm gonna present you my research on this situation, and it's probably gonna be a lot worse than I think. So before getting started, please hit that like button to help me with the YouTube algorithm. Very much of this mess can be summed up in two words: real estate. China has experienced what experts might call a housing bubble. As more and more people dump their life savings into real estate, this sector grew exponentially with between 10 and 15% a year. That's a lot. This is topped up with the fact that a huge wave of people from the rural areas of China have moved to the big cities in order to rent and buy apartments. This huge increase in the demand has forcibly pushed China into a building frenzy. It actually built 5 times more than the United States and Europe combined. So what does this tell you? That there were a lot of homes available, right? Wrong. The supply was so limited that China has started organizing lotteries in order to decide who gets and who does not get an apartment, and the odds were as little as 1 to 60. Add that to the fact that 70% of China's entire wealth is tied to the property market. For comparison, the US is only around 35%. But there is an even bigger problem. You still haven't touched that like button to help me with the YouTube algorithm. People were thinking real estate is such a good investment that they would buy anything they could get their hands on. And so developers have started to ask for prepayment for projects that did not even exist yet, in the hopes to build apartments entirely with their customers' money. You see, that's a smart thing to do because interest rates for real estate projects are around 5%, but if you manage to get the money from your customers in the form of a prepayment, that's interest-free. And that's how pre-sales and deposits were the developers' biggest funding sources. The purchases of homes were getting so out of hand that the developers could not even start their own projects. And that's how the City of Dreams has started to look more like the wasteland of nightmares, with 225 million square meters of unfinished real estate projects owned by only a handful of companies that were struggling to build them. As the developers literally abandoned their projects and ran away with the money in offshore accounts, the buyers, millions in numbers, started organizing strikes all around China, threatening that they would stop mortgage payments until the constructors resume building their apartments. Although they started with Evergrande, the behemoth of real estate in China, it quickly expanded to 300 more real estate companies that were building apartments at that time, forcing the Chinese government to do something, but unfortunately it was too late. And that's why property sales have dramatically decreased while interest rates have skyrocketed because of the big companies that were borrowing staggering amounts of money in order to keep afloat. So what is China doing to defuse the situation? Well, they promised that they will deliver new apartments, and they promised that they will keep an eye on these companies. Unfortunately, by the time they promised this, it was too late. With more than 90% of China's population owning real estate, and with more than 13 million units halted only last year, it's inevitable that this will spill in other areas as well. And banks were first. You see, banks are legally required to keep 10% of the money that you give them. They can do whatever they want with the 9% that remains. They usually borrow it to somebody else. This is based on statistics that say that it's impossible for more than 10% of a bank's customers to withdraw all of their money at the same time. Because of the real estate situation, people were afraid to lose all of their money, and that's why they all went to the bank to save what they could. As banks did not have the money to give to the people, what do you think they did? That's right, they froze all of the money and they brutalized anyone who was rioting. When this happened, the government said that the banks were taken over by a criminal gang, and that was met with a lot of skepticism. At this point, the unthinkable happened. The Chinese people have lost their faith in the Chinese banking system as well as real estate market. So what does China do in this situation? What they do best. They try to cover it up, and they try to bail out one of the biggest companies on the planet by lending them $300 billion. This is even funny because it's like you would advise a gambling addict to gamble away even more money to win back their losses. Like, what could go wrong? So what is the situation right now? Collapsed real estate market, collapsed banking system, and the lowest trust level in the banking system in the history of China. And you're sitting there watching this video asking yourself, okay, but what does this have to do with me? I live in the United States. How does this affect me? Let me tell you something. The US has exponentially increased their investments in China over the past decade. They have invested more than $120 billion in China. Other than that, a huge percentage of goods that are being used in the United States every single day come from China, and they make up an average life cost of an average American. Other than that, lots of struggling Chinese companies might want to sell their stock in exchange for liquidity because they need that right now. And this could highly destabilize the stock market. And you know who's a victim to that? You and me. So when will things get real messy? When China will officially declare that they fell short of their 5.5% annual growth target. That is the exact moment when China will lose its wings, and I urge you to buckle up because it's a matter of when it will happen, not if it will happen. If you want to be up to date with anything financial related that will help you in your day-to-day life, please subscribe to my channel. You will help me a lot. Until next time.